This is the CreaseCast.
Welcome to the CreaseCast. I'm Lachlan Irvin. There is no Cody here today, even though it's a Monday show. He's a busy man. Jacob New is filling in today. And obviously we didn't have a show on Friday again. So, but that's not happening anymore. I'm making sure I'm putting my foot down and I'm making sure there are Friday shows after this. So don't worry about that. But yeah, we were just talking before the show. We were talking about basically just the Canuck. We like talking about things, not just the Canuck, what's going on with the Canucks, but also because, but also other teams and other parts of hockey in sports, because the Canucks make us sad sometimes, but they've been better than this year. And I was saying to Jacob before this, I'm like, like he was saying the mantra of the Jim Benning era, which we're not going to spend any time on today, was that they're mediocre.
Yeah.
And I was like, in a way, that's almost like unfair, because like even though the team on the ice was like mediocre, to be that mediocre for that long with all the like opportunities he had, that's not good enough. Well, as we're all well aware. But like I was saying, like I'll never forget like the California road trip where it looked like they had a shot at finishing dead last and getting like the best odds for, I think, would have been the Austin Matthews.
How many games was it? This was 2016.
Yeah, this is the 2016. They were like a few games above like five, or no, wouldn't have been. Sorry, you know what? It wasn't the Matthews year. It would have been the Nico Hischier year.
So 2017,
which they wouldn't have gotten anyway. But if they finished first, dead last, they still wouldn't have gotten first overall. But they won like those three. They swept a California like road trip or something like in March with
typical.
Nothing on the line, and it was like the difference.
They literally. So I'm pretty sure what happened was they were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and so that like maybe a couple days passed. They go on this road trip, and then they proceed to like steamroll like San Jose, Anaheim, and the LA or whatever, and they get 6 points out of it, and everyone's just looking at their TV, just being like, at least the people that were on Team Tank at that point, they were just like, why? And I'm not advocating for teams to like crap the bed and play bad just to lose games, but it just works out so well that the Canucks would decide to start winning as soon as things just don't matter.
Yeah,
at least for that, like going forward for drafting position and such.
Yeah. As I talked about actually in an article for Canucks Army that I wrote today, that might be coming out for you by the time.
Placement.
It might be out by the time. Yeah, self promotion. That's probably out by the time you're getting this podcast. One of the things I talked about is like it's not the players' job to the onus isn't on the players to like go, oh well, we need to lose this game.
No, never. They're not wanting to.
That's
go
entirely
out
on management. Yeah, which is why if the players do their best on the ice, like I think I even said that at the time. Like I was like, like if the players are putting in a full effort and winning games and happening to win games, that's better in my opinion than watching them just get absolutely like derailed because they didn't try. Like I'm fine. I am very much fine with watching even like a terrible team that probably needs to finish in the dead last to give their head a shake. Like if they're winning games because they're putting their best effort together, that's fine. And at any point, we're going to talk not too much about the Canucks today, frankly, because of the fact that, well, there's been no games. Well, there was the one game against Nashville in the time since the last recording. But that's not really been the main NHL stories of late. Obviously, Canucks get back to it tomorrow against the Arizona Coyotes. But, we're going to talk about the All-Star game today. We're going to talk about the Olympics because those are more fun. Those are more fun at the end of the day than talking about how the Canucks have now lost Quinn Hughes to COVID protocol. I believe is this the second time this year, or it might just be the first one. Hopefully.
I don't remember if he was part of that first outbreak. They also lost fourth liner Matthew Highmore.
Yes. Highmore is also is positive, also tested positive. Elias Pettersson was not at practice today, and which set off alarm bells for everybody for a second. Then Bruce Bridger was like, "Oh, he's sick. He's not COVID sick. He's just sick. He's just an unrelated illness." So we sent him home for the day.
He had too much fun.
Maybe. Well, maybe that could be, or honestly, hopefully that's what it was, because
I'm sure it
that is
was.
way preferable to any alternative.
For sure. You don't
Um,
want to have him stuck in another isolation for 10 plus days
no,
now that we've lost
or
our
even
top two defense,
or even
top
just like
defenseman.
for him to get like a cold, like you're
Mhm.
just like, oh god, like give the
Give
man a
this
break.
man a break. Come on.
Yeah. Yep. And then of course there was no Tucker Poolman, who has also been dealing with an issue since actually last week.
Yeah.
He was feeling not so well. He is not recovered from whatever that is. It's not a COVID related thing either in that
Was that
case.
injury? Wasn't it in Winnipeg?
Yeah, it started in
Yeah.
Winnipeg. It has not been I don't think anybody knows exactly what it is.
Mhm.
But he's just not feeling super well. And that's where the Canucks are at right now. Now, the big really the with all due respect to Elias Pettersson, the big problem here is with Hughes, because frankly Quinn Hughes is the metaphorical duct tape that keeps the entire Canucks, like the entire Canucks defense, from falling apart.
Yeah.
He is the glue on the Ming vase that
He is the saving grace of this D corps.
yeah,
If
him
he's
and
gone,
yeah.
there is very little to salvage.
There's nothing
There,
there
well,
besides Jack Rathbone.
there's nothing there. I want to say very little though, because I'm not trying to say the rest of the players on the defense line are non NHL players. They're NHL players. They're
Luke
probably a
Chen
little
is very good.
overpaid. Luke Shen is very good. I saw a great tweet from J-Pat essentially just saying, this is the Canucks D without Quinn Hughes. Our top performer is Tyler Myers with 11 assists, no goals in 46 games. Also, Luke Shen has 9 points in 30 games. OEL has not the same amount of points in more games played, 13 more. So, as you
And
said, Luke Shen is a high quality defenseman.
no trading Luke Shen. Absolutely not.
Well,
He is the number 2. He
they
is the
did
number 2 on
say
this on
they
this.
like to stir stuff up. They were linking Toronto to Shen
That
a
would be
couple
kind of
days ago.
funny. That would be
That'd
pretty
be a
funny
funny
that
that'd be a funny homecoming if that ever happened. I don't think it will. I think Luke's wants to stay here. He's got his cup rings and stuff. He can play with Quinn. It's a nice situation.
yeah, but if you want to win something again, if you want to keep winning stuff,
In
like
Toronto?
that's true. You're not
Come
winning
on,
anything.
we all
You're not
know what
winning
happens in
anything there.
Toronto. I mean, if it was another team,
They
fair
passed
enough, but
20,000 days without a Stanley Cup victory, which is a lot. Which, obviously in Vancouver, not a lot of room to talk, but that is more days than it has been for the Canucks. So there you go.
since the beginning of our franchise, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Was
I guess in
that
theory, technically speaking, the Canucks have not won since the dawn of the earth. So
true?
that we're
We're
technically
talking
like a
since
few
we were
trillion
eligible in
days.
1970.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you were referring to the Leafs Stanley Cup drought bot on Twitter.
Cup
yes,
drought,
the
Cup
one
drought,
I
the
forget what it's called.
20,000 days.
I think he also was including like it's this many days since the Leafs lost to a Zamboni driver and such. I think he was including that in the tweets as well, but he might have not anymore because of the character count.
Yeah. It's the Leafs are a whole other just fascinating story. But yeah, where the Canucks are at right now, the defense is a bit of a mess. And at the end of the day, like, it's not really that different. Like in the real grand scheme of things, like, having Hughes not there is really, really bad, but it's not really all that different from what they've been dealing with this year, where it's like, he's the one guy there. It's like, okay, there's still, he's still only on the ice for 25 minutes of that game.
He's not playing the whole game. He's playing top 2 minutes, but still.
You wish he could. You
wish
really
we
wish
could build him like that. He's going to come back next year. We're going to build him bigger, better, stronger.
Even if he plays half a game, like, there's still 30 minutes where he's not on the ice, and the Canucks are having to play defense without him. So it doesn't change too much on how they deal with it day to day, but it's going to be a tough challenge for them to deal with it, especially not so much with the Coyotes as much as it will be the Islanders and then the Leafs on the Saturday. That's the big loss. There's the crippling losing your fastest defenseman and your most mobile defenseman against a team like Toronto, which is so good at particularly at playing a quick tempo style of game. Like, there's a lot of things that the Canucks as a defensive unit might be able to kind of salvage without Quinn Hughes there. Playing a fast game is not one of them. There is no one else on that blue line who has quick feet.
They were advertising OEL as being quicker, but OEL's age has caught up with him.
Yeah, and in the injury issues, there's a lot of things there. It just hasn't. It's just not there, and that's just not what he is anymore. Which is why it's all the more important that you get Jack Rathbone into some games eventually, because he might be able to keep up at that pace. Noah Juleson, not so much, but like he's at least got a little bit of the youth on his side to a degree. There's not a lot there, but at the end of the day, as long as they have Thatcher Demko, they're kind of just in any game. Like the wildest fact about this entire season, and this has been brought up, and this was brought up today, is the fact, it's been brought up a number of times, is the fact that even with as weak a defense as the Canucks have, they're number 1 in the NHL in the fewest goals allowed at 5v5, which is ridiculous. And I frankly, like I was saying, I was talking to David Quadrelli, friend of the show, earlier today. And I was like, if they make the playoffs, if they somehow manage to make the playoffs with that defense and they win, and they manage to keep that stat or around that mark, like how does Thatcher Demko not unanimously win the Vezina Trophy and the Hart Trophy? Like you can't not, if that happens, like they can't not give it to him. Like it would be a crime if anyone voted against him.
I mean, yeah, no, I would agree with that. I'm not sure if like he is as unanimous as like within all hockey writers in the association.
Oh, not right now, no. But like if they manage to keep that stat, like that stat alive, and then made a playoff round, like he 100% should guaranteeably win the Vezina. Like there shouldn't even be a vote. They should just be like, okay, we're just giving it to you now. Enjoy. Like
I mean, I hope he wins the Vezina and the Hart. Like, another Hart winner behind Henrik Sedin.
Yeah, the Hart is the longer shot of the two for sure. Like just in a general sense, especially because like again, like the for some reason there's been this kind of there's this mentality of the way that award gets voted on where you have to make the playoffs to be eligible for it, kind of. And so you don't, and a lot of the time it ends up not really even going to like the best player. It'll go to like the guy who single-handedly like dragged his team to like the 8th seed. And it's like on one hand you're like, I kind of get it, but also how is Connor McDavid not winning every year?
He just looks at his team and he's just like, I'm gonna drag this damn team to the 8th seed.
Yeah, I'm gonna drag this team to a 5-game loss in the first round.
No, they're like, I'm dragging you to the 8th seed, and then they proceed to lose in 5, and then they're like, that man, he is the hero. Give that man an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and that like Taylor Hall is the big example of that with the Devils.
That's a good one, actually.
But even then it was like, he kind of was the only thing they had, and they won because of that. Like that's the MVP vote is in itself just a weird little like nutshell of like thinking about how hockey media and how hockey fans in general approach what makes you the most valuable player. Because on one hand, is it as simple as it should be the guy who has the most points? Because and like if Connor McDavid's team doesn't make the playoffs, is he technically still an MVP? And that's what it came down to a lot of times for them, and why he didn't win a bunch of times, even though he was like still scoring like 120 points. But as far as the Vezina is concerned, like there's clearly some options, some other options there. Like Igor Shesterkin is incredible. UC Saros, same deal. But the way that Demko is playing in front of that defense, like at least in like the Rangers case, they're a team that's battling for a playoffs and felt like comfortable committing to being a playoff team coming into the year. At least in Nashville's case, they were a little bit farther off the mark, but they're still the Nashville Predators, who have Roman Josi on their blue line and Matthias Ekholm. They have a pretty good blue line, even though it's not as good as it used to be. Thatcher Demko, it's Quinn Hughes, and then there's just a bunch of guys like he has been single-handedly just holding them in whatever kind of chance they have at the playoffs. And like I am very much of the mindset like, okay, he has to win the Vezina. Like I firmly believe he should win the Vezina already.
Mhm.
I thought he might have been able to do it last year had COVID not taken him out,
Mhm.
taken out the entire team. I thought he was on track to get it, to win it, or at
Yeah.
least be a finalist. This year, I think he actually could very much walk away with the hardware.
I mean, he could. I'm actually just looking at the goalie stats because, yeah, like you mentioned, Shesterkin had a chance. They were talking about this on SDP because it is something that's interesting with the Blues scenario with Bennington having
Billy
an
Husso.
absolutely disastrous
What?
season.
You're telling me the guy who is Mr. Inconsistent himself is not as good as his contract might tell you?
On the
What?
first year of a $6 million contract extension, I think 5
That's
years, something like
crazy.
that.
I'm
But
I'm so
yeah.
shocked.
Well, going back, so who leads the league in save percentage right now? And then Shesterkin. Anderson has actually been very good in Carolina. Who would have thought he would have bounced back after Toronto eventually just said that they were the Freddie era was over?
I mean, like, so with Freddie Anderson specifically, I do think that in a general sense, the Leafs did make the correct call
Oh
there.
yeah, no, I'm not
Like
saying they
Jack
should have kept
Campbell has
him,
been,
but
Jack
yeah.
Campbell has been very, very good, even if he
Mhm.
was a little I wouldn't say, honestly, he wasn't even unproven coming into this year. Like it was
No, he
pretty
wasn't.
clear
He was
last year
proven.
that he was
He
good
was
enough to play
he
consistent
proved
goaltending.
to
Yeah.
take the starter, and even
Yeah.
though it was a devastating first round loss, like I think they
That's
knew
not
he
his
was the
fault.
yeah, that's not on his. That was the performance
That's
of the
the
players.
Leafs as a
Yeah,
concept
but they knew
rather
he
than
was going to be
him.
the guy going forward with this team at least for the next couple of like seasons.
Yeah.
And
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 even
like
in
yeah.
Carolina's case, one of the things that I really gave them a hard time over during the off season when they chose to sign Anderson and I believe Antti Ranta as backup was
Mhm.
that they're both great goaltenders when they're healthy. The problem is they're usually
Injured.
guaranteed to get injured at least once a year, which
Yeah.
means that you shouldn't have both on your team. You should
Yeah.
probably have one guy who has a more clean bill of health
Which
long term.
also which also makes the decision for them to trade Nedeljkovic even more weird for
I
that.
That
I
was
don't
a
understand
bad
that
choice.
for that
Uh,
management group to do that,
That was
but
the like, here's the thing, if you want Anderson, keep Anderson by all
mhm,
go for Anderson by all means. I just don't understand how they felt they were, that, replacing, long term, replacing Nedeljkovic with, say, Antti Ranta, for example, was gonna go
mhm.
well for them. Not because Antti Ranta's not a good goaltender, he is, he's just very injury prone,
Yeah,
and he's older. So it's like, why
yeah.
wouldn't you take the younger guy who doesn't have an injury, a long history of
I don't know.
missing extended periods of time
I
at
mean,
the very least?
maybe they
And
went with,
he's done really well in Detroit as well.
yeah, maybe they would I don't know if it was a high risk, high reward because I mean, Freddie Anderson, he was a proven commodity before a lot of the injuries and him getting sent to the AHL with Toronto and pretty
Yeah,
much
that was
losing out. And like, I'm really happy for him. He's a great story in
oh
Carolina
yeah,
and Antti being the backup, but it's just weird having
yeah,
Nedeljkovic get traded for pretty much scraps.
yeah.
And then
I always
Markstrom
Yeah, well,
was the
just
next
quickly
guy
with
we're going to go over
yeah,
with him. Yeah.
with Anderson as well. Like I always felt he got an unfair amount of flack in Toronto for what he
Mhm.
did. Like he was often he sure led in a couple softies in the playoffs every here and there, but every goaltender has that moment, and that's
I
fine.
don't
And he was still coming up with the saves when he had to, more or less during those
yeah.
playoff years.
Those
It was
softies were more on Jake Gardner's defense rather than
Yeah,
him, honestly.
poor
In those game
who is
sevens, like,
also a Hurricane now.
yeah,
That's gonna be interesting if they go to a game 7 Gardner. I don't actually even know if Jake
the
Gardner is
Gardner
healthy right
Anderson
now.
connection. Will it happen again? We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. And so I again, very much literally the only reason I didn't like the Hurricane signing, the Anderson signing for Carolina was because because they had literally just gone through that whole thing with Mrazek, where it was like, hey, he keeps getting hurt in the playoffs when you need him. Maybe you should go for somebody a
Who
little
is
bit of a
not
safer
injury
bet.
prone.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah.
And again, Anderson, when he's in the net, he's a great goaltender. But
Mhm.
that's my big thing. Now
Yeah.
with Markstrom, the big thing was, again, it was always going to come down to, did they find him a quality backup goaltender? And they did with Dan Vladar. That's literally all there is to it. Their goal differential is ridiculous for where they're on the standings. It's like a plus. I think they're like a plus 23. Like,
how
it's
many
something
shutouts does he have?
I believe he has 6 or
He
7.
has 7. He has 7.
So he has 7, which is far more.
So this is what I was gonna say. Like, I really hope that Demko does end up winning the Vezina, and he has a good chance if they keep the 5-on-5 less than expected goal stat. But if the Calgary is able to get their crap together and scrap into the playoffs, even with a first round play against Edmonton or something, I think Markstrom, with 7+ shutouts already on the season, I think he is like one of the definitive candidates, at least, to get votes.
I think it's going to be, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he and Dan Vladar end up winning like the Jennings.
Yeah,
I
can see that happening.
Like the best combined save percentage, especially like in today's game, where it often comes down to how good is your backup on a nightly basis rather than how good is your number one guy. Like, I think they're in the mix. I was actually reading a Dmitry Filipovich article earlier today about over on Elite Prospects Ringside. He was talking about goaltending and like Evolving Wild in particular, like their graphic of like all the teams that are getting like the save percentages, the goals saved above expected for that each team, and like based on the starters numbers and the backups numbers. The Canucks are actually like in the great tandem category, which is honestly surprising considering how much flack everybody gave Jaro Halak at the beginning of the year for not being good enough and losing a lot of games early on, which it turned out was not really him. It was due to everybody.
Did they count
else.
Martin's stats in there, or is it only Halak?
I would not be surprised if Martins are in there too. I'm assuming they're just kind of counting every game besides like backup.
Because I wasn't sure if they were including like third strings or fourth, because I was like, I mean, if you took Halat's stats alone and then Demko, I was like, Demko dragging them to a great tier of goaltending. I was like, I mean, I could see it, but I was like, Martin played incredibly well in those 3 games, which probably gave him the boost to get into that tier, at least for the
Martins. I would imagine. Well, like, so they're near like the axis in terms of like,
they're not like in the middle or the higher echelon of that tier.
They're in a weirdly like good spot though. They're like one of like they're in one of the better groups, which is just wild and they're kind of in like a little spot just by themselves there. Like Anaheim is in there, like Carolina's obviously in there. And then like Igor Shesterkin, for example, like that again, I think it very much that the Vezina is going to come down to very specifically. It's going to come down to Demko versus Shesterkin. I think I think those are going to be your 1 and 2. And like very much like you look at the stats, like he's firmly in the carried. They're in the carried by starter section firmly, which is weird because Georgiev in himself is not a bad goaltender either. He's not Shesterkin, but he's a pretty good goalie. I mean, the Rangers were also like, there were people that were thinking that the Rangers might try to deal Georgiev. Like, I mean, they should. They like, because there was the whole thing with Edmonton. The Mike Smith experiment is still not going well along with Mikko Koskinen. Where are they? I don't know. They're in the down bad section. What a surprise! Them and Seattle and poor Seattle. Grubauer's done better lately.
No, Gru had a pretty bad start to the Seattle. He had a really bad start for that franchise.
Start.
But,
like,
you know what? At
least
he's rebounded.
Is like underselling how bad it was.
And it also just makes the goalie moves in Seattle even more confusing. They select Vita Vanacek, and then they trade him back, and then they sign Grubauer, and it's like, you could have had Kaapo Kähkönen, who looks like he'll be the starter in Minnesota for the next couple seasons. You know, he's playing really well.
Cam Talbot's done very well as well. I mean,
they're a good tandem, but I can see like Kähkönen taking over that.
Kähkönen is your long-term guy for sure. Like Talbot's an older veteran at this point.
But that's like a better version of the like, at least Cam Talbot's the better older goalie than like Mike Smith.
I cannot believe
and I thought Mike Smith was old back when he played for the Coyotes in like 2012, and he's still playing. That was 8+ years ago.
And he will be for another 10 years. Like
No, don't even say
the
that.
Oilers will. No, I want to because I don't care if the Oilers keep doing this to themselves. That's fine.
Ken Holland in 3 years, it's like, oh yeah, we're
I
bringing
really,
back
it's
Mike
like,
Smith for another go around. We think it's gonna work this time, and Connor
yeah, I
McDavid's
really
just
think
sitting there,
he's
just
going
being
to
like,
turn a corner, and it's like,
yeah, McDavid just has the 1,000-yard stare, like at a
well,
press conference. He's just like,
Connor McDavid, just like being like, yeah, in his very like monotone way, being like, yeah, I totally am I'm very excited, but also he probably just doesn't care because
mm,
he's making his
yeah,
money. He doesn't
he's
care really.
well.
Like,
I mean,
he cares.
he
He cares.
cares.
He
He
cares.
cares. I would say, like, how many years of futility in a franchise that doesn't seem to always make the right choices is it going to take for him to just say, like, you know what? I want more than just my toll in like making 12.5 million a year. Like, it's a lot of
I
money.
mean,
It's one of the more good contracts, but that's like the biggest steal in the NHL for the best player in the world. He should
I
be
mean,
making at least 14 or 15. Let's be honest.
oh, he could easily be.
He can
Yeah,
make more than
I
that
think
even.
that's the wild. That might be the wildest part about it, is that he left money on the table
He
and
left
then
money on the
watched
table
them
for that.
piss it
And
away.
and now he's pissed. The years are just leaking away and down the drain. And I don't know if he'll even make it to the end of that contract. Like,
With
or at
Edmonton?
least with Edmonton. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. Like, or at least when it's over,
Yeah.
if all is said and done, if nothing's done there, he's gone.
Yeah, honestly,
There's no playoff wins, no series wins. At least they could win, or even if there's one series win, but the outlook just doesn't look good. I can see him just jumping ship.
100%. Like,
And
no.
and
I
Edmonton
think
fans that would totally understand. I
no,
would
they
say
would.
they would.
No, they wouldn't.
No,
No, they
like,
wouldn't.
really?
No, they
I think.
wouldn't. And Oilers fans are delusional. They will
Well, I
like
think
boo him.
some of them would
They will boo him
understand. Well,
whenever he
some of
leaves.
them would understand that it's just a crap
Some of them
show.
would understand.
So,
Some of them would
I'm not
totally
saying, yeah, I'm not
understand.
saying all of them. I'm just saying some of them essentially would have been like, yeah, our management group doesn't know what the heck it's doing. Go win a cup elsewhere, Connor. Like,
I think they would. I think
and I
they.
hope he does win a cup. I don't want him to be one of the best players
Oh
in the
yeah, it's
world just
bad
to
for
never
hockey.
win a cup.
It's bad
There's
for
many.
hockey that
It's bad for
he's not
hockey.
not
It's
doing anything.
it's
But
like yeah. We should get on to the All-Star
yeah.
stuff quickly.
Yeah, let's just talk about All-Star stuff now, because like that's kind of where we're at. Like,
Yeah.
speaking of McDavid led teams not showing up, the
Yeah.
Pacific the Pacific Division lost. Oh well, like again, okay. Let's
They
just start with
probably
the
wanted
obvious.
to do
The
some other
All-Star
stuff.
game doesn't really matter. Like
No.
it's for the fans at the end of the day. Like, I've been to an All-Star game. I went to the 2019 one. It was fun. Like, it was very, very fun. But like it definitely, but I didn't go because I was expecting a riveting game of hockey. I went because of oh cool, there's a whole fanfare and everything. And then there's like every player, all the good players showing up.
There's
Just
a
to
fan
like
fest,
hang out in
meet
the
and
same
greets.
place.
There's
Oh yeah.
activities. It's not about the
It's not
competitive nature of the game itself. It's literally just about everything except that. The skills comp even is bigger than
the
a deal
skills
than the
comp
game.
is
Even,
better.
I would
The
say.
skills
Yeah.
comp is better than the 3-on-3 game. And I've honestly wondered for the last, like, okay, I might just give everybody my take on how to fix the All-Star game in general.
I'd like to hear this.
But okay, I'll just go right here. So what is the biggest issues with the All-Star game? Mainly, it's not it is that the players don't like it. Like, the players clearly don't like going. It like so many times there have been multiple cases where players are like, hey, please don't vote for me. I like to go to this event. I want to go on my vacation to Cabo. Like,
Yeah, they're like, I have non-refundable tickets. Please do not vote me in.
Yeah, please do not vote me in. I don't want to go to St. Louis instead of going to like Cabo. Not because St. Louis isn't I'm sure very like has some nice things to do. It's just not like Hawaii. It's just not like a nice.
It's not how I wanted to
vacation.
spend this break.
Exactly.
It's like 5-day break.
So I think, so at the end of the day, I think the biggest problem with the All-Star game is, okay, if you're going to you want to get players to actually get interested in going, rather than worry about the overall value, like the game itself and even like the skills competition stuff. Like, they could do more with that for sure. I even wrote an article about that and the things they could do to fix most of the events. The breakaway competition we'll talk about in a bit, which was fantastic and perfect as is.
That was
that was great. though, and see, but like when you see that, that's like the one event that the players are like, oh, I actually am gonna have a lot of fun with this, and we're gonna
Mhm.
like do something ridiculous here. And like
Yeah.
it's like literally one of the rare times you see players like actually look like they're not only just that they're enjoying themselves, but showing a little bit of personality.
There's a reason there's the only like clipped of segments that you see of previous All-Star games are just from the breakaway competition. Like Ovi
Yeah.
doing the hat and the
Oh,
Canada
I love
flags.
that
Like
one. That
that's
one was
used all the
wonderful.
time. Like there's just like
That's
those clip.
iconic.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the most iconic clips of the All-Star game. Always the breakaway
Marc-Andre
comp.
Fleury doing push-ups in the net on his while the like base trying to like one up the player coming at him, like love it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, some of the best lots of the best the most like memorable moments of any recent All-Star game comes from that breakaway competition.
Yeah.
Um uh and so you have to get the players to actually enjoy going.
Mhm.
And I know at the end of the day, really what the NHL wants is to like send it to like the market, like another NHL market. And it's like a rewarding for the fans. Although in reality, like it's not, because the people going are, those are the most expensive tickets. Like the All-Star tickets are more expensive, I believe, generally than like Winter Classic tickets or
Really?
outdoor game. Oh yeah, because partially because the outdoor venues can hold more people,
Yeah,
but
okay. Because I was
also
yeah.
because the real value of the All-Star game for the NHL is not in the, oh, it's a competition. We get to schmooze a lot of celebrities and sponsors of the league to come and enjoy themselves kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Fair enough.
The after parties are often talked about at like All-Star games and stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas the Winter Classic is an actual regular NHL game. Like if it's cool, but like there's serious competition on the line. It's not just a big
Sure.
party.
But I'm curious, like if like here's like let me ask you, if you had the chance to go to an All-Star game, like take away your memories of San Jose in 2019, would you go to an All-Star game or a Winter Classic in your city if given the
Oh,
choice?
Winter Classic,
Price.
easy.
Exactly. And that's interesting.
Easy.
But yeah, the
Yeah,
tickets are cheaper just because they have like way more seats, but
but
the view might
also
be a little terrible.
the average fan is more like willing to pay a premium for a real game than for a like just a like
Um
a funny competition kind of thing, right?
yeah.
Um, but so which is why again, I think at the end of the day, the more important thing is how do you get the players to actually enjoy going?
Mhm.
And I think Vegas was a good kind of like start in that direction where it was like, well, Vegas is clearly a place where players would be fine hanging out for the weekend, right? Because they
Yeah.
can go party it up. But I would honestly say take it a step further. And I would say send it literally, they should send the All-Star game overseas to Europe. Send it to like other countries. Because here's
Hmm.
one of the things that they're always talking about. It's like, oh, like what's the NHL's biggest complaint? Like when they came to like the Olympics and the whole fight they made over like not going to Pyeongchang and almost not committing to Beijing the first time around.
Mhm.
Circumstances changed it, but they weren't even necessarily committed to going there. Is always that, oh, we don't feel like we're getting anything out of going. We don't want to send our players to a tournament that we don't get any revenue or any money out of. So it's like, okay, send the All-Star game to Finland or Sweden or somewhere where you could because here's the thing, in those countries, people are going to be thrilled to just see if they like hockey or are interested in the novelty of hockey, even if it's not
Yeah.
good hockey. They're going to be like, oh, this is cool because I would never see these guys on a normal day. Like, I
Mhm.
could never see, like, you can see even like, sure, maybe you won't get to see, say, Connor McDavid on the same ice as Austin Matthews and Elias Pettersson and what have you, all at the same time in a normal day. But you can still, as someone who lives in an NHL city, you get to see those players if you want. You can just buy tickets for a normal game and see them,
Yeah.
like, and just see them each individually with their own teams. Whereas, like, other countries where they don't have NHL action, like that's the perfect opportunity to be like, hey, look, they're going to be interested in seeing any sort of hockey that like with our players in it. We get a chance to market those stars to a bigger, wider audience just by being in a different place. It might hurt
Mhm.
our TV ratings in North America, but nobody's watching anyway, so who cares?
Well, you watched apparently.
I watched even I didn't watch I watched the skills competition live,
Yeah.
but I didn't watch the All-Star game live. I watched that on YouTube after.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I did not watch that game until
See,
after, and even
I
then
have
I
an
was watching
excuse.
it
I was at
yeah.
work, so I couldn't watch the game or the skills comp. I saw clips of the skills comp when it was live, but I didn't see the whole thing front to
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I do think that is an interesting idea, sending it to Finland. They have played like they used to have a
they're the
thing where
global
they would
series.
play the global series,
They're
and
bringing
before
that
that, I
back
think
next year. They're
they
bringing
are
that back in
okay.
the next
There
season,
was
yeah.
also it was before it was called the global series. It was called something else in like
They've had a
0809. But yeah.
they've had a
Mhm.
number of Europe like crossing like overseas games. Like
It
usually
would
it's at the
take
start of the year, but
yeah.
like
They'll take like 4 American teams, send them to like Finland or Sweden or even London, play a game at O2 Arena, and
question
they'll make their regular season start
trivia
usually.
question. Do you know who the first NHL player to score a goal to score an NHL regular season goal overseas is, and with what team he did it?
Oh, so the Canucks, I'm pretty sure, played in Europe back in like 1998 or 97, and I'm pretty sure it was Messier.
It was not Messier. You are correct. It was the Canucks, though. It was Scott
Okay.
Walker. Scott Walker scored the first
Okay.
goal.
Well, I remember it being because I saw a video of that and I was
I bel
like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the Canucks were playing, and I was like, I bet it's Messier because that was like one of the first years he was there and everyone didn't like that. But yeah, so they've done that before. A couple things just to say, I don't know if it would work. The timing, at least for airing it, yeah, you're right. The ratings in North America aren't great, but at the same time, like I doubt
They're not
players would
that
be the
good at
fan of like jet setting over to Europe for 5 days to do it.
the players?
Yeah, I don't know if like I
No,
mean,
they would that's the thing, because then
would
you get to
they?
be like, "Hey, instead of just sending you to, like, I don't know, like, Winnipeg in the middle of
No.
January and
Oh, okay,
February."
stop. They'll never put an all-star game in Winnipeg. Too small of an arena.
They have to
I
at
would
some
want them
point.
to, but I doubt they do it. The
It
NHL
depends.
would be like,
I
we're
think
all
the
gonna
leagues have to bid. Like, I think the teams have to bid. Like, I think the Jets would throw up would have a huge issue if they're like, "Hey, we
I
keep getting passed over. You better give it to us at some point,
I
right?"
hope they do. I really would. I would think an all-star game in Winnipeg would be great. Yeah, the players might not like the temp, but I think it would be a great atmosphere. The fans would come out. It'd be awesome. But I just think the way that a lot of these all-star bids and even the draft bid comes up is that it has to be a city of a certain like caliber, a population. Like Vancouver and Montreal were getting the draft recently for reasons because they're a bigger city than Winnipeg. I don't know if Winnipeg actually proposed to host a draft, but
No,
like
I don't think, well, for the draft for sure it doesn't matter, because like those tickets are not like those are not a high priced like ticket to buy by any stretch. Like they're like, I think the Canucks, the ones in 2019, were like $20 for
I
like a
went to
lower
day 2
bowl
of that.
seat.
Yeah, they were like
Yeah, it was
$10. It
cheap.
was
It
fun.
was
It was
dirt
fun.
cheap. Like they
Yeah.
don't care about, they're not making money at that event. They don't care where that is. But like and even like again, like the Winter Classic is, or like any sort of outdoor game, is a much bigger money like seller for them, and they've done them in Winnipeg before.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't think they would be akin like, oh, the All-Star game, that's where we draw the line. It's like which is why, again, I think you can get players to be like, okay, maybe we're not going to, like, instead of going to like middle of nowhere in a place we go all
Mhm.
the time, like an arena we go all the time, they're sending us to like Stockholm in the middle at a very nice morning. We can go see a bunch. That's an actual, like, hey, they might actually stay for the week and go like do things, because they
Maybe.
don't normally get to go there. And it's like a homecoming for some of the players, or it's like somewhere like, or it's somewhere that does not even have a real NHL connection necessarily yet, where it's
Mhm.
like, maybe you just go, hey, okay, we're gonna send you to Tokyo. Like we'll put the All-Star game in Tokyo, and then you get to go like hang out, and you get to go sightseeing after you're done. Like,
Yeah.
there you go. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think would get the players more interested in actually going, because then it is a vacation, because then it is much more of a vacation for them. Whereas, right, you know what the difference is?
What?
Having the All-Star game in another NHL city is not a vacation, it's a business trip. Whereas if you send it overseas to a place they don't always go, that is a vacation. Then it actually is there's a real, like, I actually get a cool little trip out of this kind of thing. So that, I think that's the key, right? It's just like, oh, instead of putting you in the
Maybe. I
the
don't know. I would have to
instead of
you'd
putting
have
you
to
in like
ask
the LA Marriott for the
sure, but
weekend.
like I honestly don't know if there's a lot of players that would want to go overseas to Europe. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I just, in my opinion, I don't
I
know if
mean,
they would. Like,
I think if they're getting
maybe
paid
if
to
they were
go,
like
like, who
from the world,
cares? They don't care.
maybe if they were part of like the World Juniors when they were younger and they ended up going to Europe or some of those, that would, it would be kind of like a reminiscence of that. Like it would be a very much like a World Juniors vibe, except it's not a
I
full tournament. It's just a
I
weekend. But
I think if the players are getting paid to go, they don't care. Like, I think they just
maybe
prefer somewhere nice to go rather
enjoy the
than
jet lag. At least they probably
like
have to get there early. The break might be a little longer to just get the jet lag
there
over
you
with.
go. More incentive for the players that aren't going. It's like, hey, at least we're getting extra like 2 or 3 days of break out of this. There you go. And then the other thing that I would think about fixing is just like, I don't like it's just a case of like, the competitions could be a little bit more fun, particularly for the goaltenders. Like the goaltenders are just there to be like pylons essentially for that tournament. Like if
Yeah.
anyone shouldn't want to go, it's the goalies.
They should just
Like
they should
such
put
a
up
waste
the
of their time.
if you ever grew up in like Canada in the cul-de-sac, they should just put up those like NHL branded like goalie like net covers that have like just the gaps where you can shoot and aim. They just put
Yeah.
that there. And then just
Have
the goalies can just take a break because everyone knows they're not trying.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, like, they're just in full on, please don't pull my groin," like, mode
Please
at that
don't
point.
injure me and make me
Yeah.
miss like 20 games or something.
Yeah, exactly, and then the other thing I would consider changing if I'm the NHL, like, because, again, like we said, the game itself is very secondary to what's good about the weekend. It's the competition, the skills competitions are still much better. I
Mhm.
would say what they should end up doing, especially if they're gonna keep on doing the 3-on-3 format, is they should split the skills competition and the All-Star game in 2. They should put the first half of the skills competition on day 1 with, like, the first 2 games of the All-Star, the first 2 3-on-3 games.
Yeah.
Then on day 2, you have the skills you have the last half of the skills competition plus the losers bracket teams. So they play again because
Mhm.
again, I
Will
thought
they
they
wanna
learned.
play again? Like, I think the
Well,
Pacific Division after that game, they're just like, "All right, let's head back to the
sure.
hotel.
Oh,
It's the
sure. They
parties are
don't
on." They
care.
don't wanna play our loser
Sure,
bracket
they don't
game.
care, but they don't care, but the people who paid money to go care. Like, that's the point, right? Like, that's the other
I
thing,
don't know
right?
if they
Like,
do.
I thought the NHL had learned their lesson the last time when I went to the 2019 game, where they were like, "Oh, we're gonna play the home team first, even though if they lose, that means the home crowd does not get to see their guys play again for the rest of the day." Like, and that was a huge mistake. And then they did it again this time. And sure enough, Pacific lost in the first round. So, there are no more Golden Knights. No more. They're
Nope.
done. They're done for the rest of the night. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you set it up so that they're guaranteed to be done the earliest if they lose? Like, that's such a bad way of setting it up, which is why I think if anything, they should have like like essentially a bronze medal game where it's like, okay, even though they lost, they still get one more shot at redemption here. Just give them the chance. Because I think you got to do it that way at the end of the day. Because again,
Mhm.
it's weird that they were like, oh, we've guaranteed that they're done after
Yeah.
that. There's 2 more hours of hockey, which will not involve your team at all. Like,
Yeah.
oops, sorry. Like, it
Well,
was a weird mixture. Talking about the actual like competitions that happened this weekend. The only thing I have to really say is Trevor Zegras was robbed. I think that's pretty clear.
yeah.
He got gypped.
He was robbed of breakaway competition winner. Who won again? I forget. It was so forgettable.
It was Alex Petrangelo with
I
the
don't remember
dumbest
what
thing I've
I
ever
don't even
seen.
remember what Petrangelo did.
Exactly. It
Like
was
I
like
remember Zegras and I remember Hughes. And
it
I
wasn't
even
even yeah. It
Hughes
wasn't
was
even
even
that
better than that.
like that Zegras. It wasn't even that like Zegras was robbed by say like, oh, he lost out to the vote went to like Luke or Jack Hughes, who did a great who did like a magic trick bit
Yeah.
with like the magic box and everything. And I swear to God, I thought for 2 seconds that instead of like a mini Jack Hughes coming out, I was like, oh, Quinn Hughes is coming out, isn't he? Like
That
there,
would have been
it's gonna be
really
Quinn
funny.
and Luke just
That would have
stepping
been
out
great.
and go and skate, and then that was gonna be the bit. And I was like, oh,
You know,
it would be
okay, well,
good.
here's the thing. If Quinn actually came to the game, like if he was actually voted in, that would have been great.
That would have been done,
Jack
and they would
invites
have done it.
Quinn there. They do the magician trick, and then both mini versions, younger versions of themselves go 2-on-0 on the goalie.
No.
That is
cologne
iconic
stuff.
right there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
still,
That's good. But like
yeah.
it, like if that happens, like still, it's like, well, at least he lost to an you lost, but he
He
lost to
lost to
another
the
very good
greatest
one.
dodgeball tribute of all time.
But like, or like if Jack Hughes wins, it's like, he's like, at least Zegras lost to a worthy
Yeah, like a
opponent
good
there.
one.
He lost to Alex Petrangelo, who literally did the dumbest bit I've ever seen, where it's like, I don't know, they stuck some weird like lights on him to kind of match the Knights thing, and then he also missed his shot and didn't even
Yeah, no, I
score.
decided to see he saw
And
it to do it again, and I was like, "What is he doing?" And then I turned my head
yeah,
away because I'm having dinner. Like I was
and
like,
he
"This is
literally admitted
stupid.
it wasn't
Zegras was way
good.
better.
He literally admitted, he was like, I'm not good at this. It's like, no, you're not.
You're
Like,
bad.
yeah, you're right. You're
You're
not good at
bad,
this.
bad."
And then of course, because he's the hometown guy, they gave it to him. They gave him the win. John
The
Hamm. Come
only the
on.
only the only one where the
John
home
Hamm,
team
he's
wins.
not
Yeah,
coming
it's
back
just
to St. Louis. He's not coming back. I know you gave him a 19, even though the most you could technically give him was a 10 and they counted it anyway. He's not coming back to the Blues, okay? Forget it.
man.
It's over. The relationship's done. Move
Mhm.
on. Like
He's
there
having
was
trouble with ever since he stopped does he stop doing the skip the dishes commercials with Brandon?
I think well,
Haven't
yeah.
seen those in a
I
while.
don't think I've seen a skip the dishes at. Oh yeah, there was. Oh, you know what? There was the
They
like
moved on, I think, but yeah,
World
he used to be
Series
like the
ones that were
face
kind
of
of
skip the
interesting.
dishes for like 2 years, and it was the
Yeah.
worst thing ever.
Actually, I kind of like them. I thought they were okay. I thought they were better than I
It was
usually. I
annoying
thought they were.
though.
I thought they were a better like they were annoying because because Sportsnet and like overplayed
Oh,
them and
Sportsnet
overplayed
overplays.
like
Yeah,
three
they switched it.
commercials.
So Sportsnet really loves to push their Sportsnet Now guy, and I want to punch him every time I
Everybody
see him.
hates the
And
Sportsnet
yeah, the
now
Sportsnet
guy,
Now guy is one of my enemies,
which is
and he's
hilarious.
also appearing in like more than just Sportsnet Now. Like
And
he's in
it's
ads for everything. Like he just
yeah,
all of a sudden became the
he's
guy
the
that you
guy
just
in Canada
hire, which
because
is
he
so
gets a
weird.
reaction out of people. That's what
Because
you want.
what does he look like? He looks like Dan Levy, except he's a discount version of
He's
him. Like
discount. Yeah,
he's dollar store Dan Levy, except more
I'm
smug
yeah a
and
little
less
bit.
funny.
I'm trying to think. There was somebody else you reminded me of. It wasn't Dan
I don't
Levy. I
remember
forget exactly
the
which
Dan Levy
celebrity
comparisons
that
I
like.
saw on Twitter. That's not original, by the way. So I
Yeah,
give credit to whoever invented that first.
yeah. It was it was a weird one. It was a weird one for sure. Those are weird
Mhm.
for sure. They anyway, like, but partially just because of the way the internet streaming works. For some reason, they can only. It's like they only have the memory for card for like 3 commercials, so it's the same 3 commercials
Yeah,
for the rest of the year.
it
Even
might have
like
been.
like on
Yeah,
NHL TV, God, I've seen like the same 3 commercials the
they
entire
just
year.
load them up and they're just like throw them on repeat until the game comes back on.
Yep,
Ugh.
there you go. It used to be a lot worse, but it's gotten a little better since the earlier times where they're like, "Oh, we're gonna play the same. Here's a popular clip from NHL.com." It's like, God
Oh,
damn
those
it,
were
this is
bad.
not It was like,
Yeah.
God, this is not popular. It's been 4 months. It's not.
Well, if
It's only popular because you keep replaying
the
it.
greatest thing the NHL ever made was the not even transition, the commercial bumper they made for the Game Center is just like this game. It's like, what does it say? Commercial break in progress, and it's
And
just
then they just see
them
like
doing
the
the
ice
Winter
being
Classic
sprayed.
ice,
Like
the
it's
spraying the
good.
ice, and
It's
Bruce
soothing.
sweeping it. It's
They
quiet.
should
It's
should
just yeah.
if the NHL were better at shit posting, they should just put that on repeat with like lo-fi music, like on
Yeah, no,
YouTube.
they should just do
Like
that.
they
It's
should
just
just
like
do a
NHL
10-hour
commercial
live
break in
stream
progress with lo-fi smooth
with lo
vibes, like, and then
like
just have
yeah,
a stream. Boom,
yeah,
brand
literally
recognition.
literally pay some lo-fi artists to make like lo-fi like a lo-fi beat for every team in the NHL and go nuts. Like make a
I
different
mean,
like
that'd be
a
cool.
themed lo-fi song for
But
every
the
team.
NHL isn't.
Now
But
I
the
want to do that.
but the
Oh, I
NHL
you
isn't
know what?
cool. They'll
No one
never
can
do
have
it.
that.
But you
That's
do it.
mine.
You do it.
That's mine. That's mine now. I'm gonna pay a lo-fi artist to make that
Okay.
happen.
Um,
Because I don't know a thing about music, so I'm
let's
gonna
move
have to have.
on to. You want to talk about Gary's press conference at the All-Star game quickly because he had 2 points and
We'll
they were
brush
dumb,
on it.
but
Yeah, we'll brush on it.
they were dumb.
So the one thing we didn't talk about last week because it hadn't come out at that point was the Rocky Wirtz outburst with again towards Mark Lazarus. I think a lot of other people have very clearly said what needs to be said on that topic.
Yeah.
In terms of how it's the stupidest thing in the world, and I like
Mhm.
was like it blew my mind at just how bad it was. Like it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this sounds bad in a tweet. oh, it's even worse when you watch the
Yeah, no.
context. Oh
So you
no.
read the Mark Lazarus. I saw his tweet and I saw the quote, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't sound great, or that doesn't look great. And then I actually hear the clip, and he Rocky Wirtz is raising his voice and with pure anger and vitriol, like, we're not talking about this. I'm like, dude, like what? Like
What's
you haven't spoken about any of this. Like, so you after the block report, you and your son getting in that pre-taped things,
that
the
weird,
report's been out, we want to talk.
yeah.
Your son speaks the whole time. You say nothing. You have 4 months of silence, and you have a town hall for your own organization that you plan, and you think that you're not going to get asked any questions about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even like I it was so frustrating for me that when I saw that, because it's just like it's a easy PR thing. Like, it's not even
oh god, easiest slam dunk in the world.
Because it was not. It was a softball question. It wasn't even hard hitting. It was like, what have you done so far, and what are you going to do? And Danny was like, hey, I'd love to talk about it. And he's like, no, you're not going to talk about this. We're done.
So that was the funniest part about the whole bit. Was literally, I guess that was his son. So that was his son. That I wasn't sure exactly
Danny
who
Wirtz.
It was.
He was trying to interject and stop.
He saw what was coming. In his credit to just to him, for this very small part where he's like, oh, I see this is going to become a train wreck if I don't step in. It's already bad. At least I can salvage it. And he steps in to do the PR thing, which is still bad, but it's like,
but he would have shown,
what
it wouldn't have turned into this disaster. Like, he couldn't stand up.
He literally
to his dad.
gave his dad an out. Well, it wasn't that he couldn't stand up to his dad. It was that he literally gave his dad the out, and his dad didn't take it and just went, no, I got this. It's like, and at that point, he's just like,
he's giving 1,000 mile. He's giving
1,000
yard stare after he's as his dad continues, and he's literally just looking. He's just like, everything that they've done in the last 3 to 4 months down the drain. All the reputation. Not to say they had built that much of a reputation to begin with. The statements they made after the report and all that, and now the settlement with Kyle Beach and John Doe 2 and so forth. But a start is a start wherever it is. And you hope that it was more that you hope it was genuine, but this is just, it's completely a joke.
Oh, it's not. The answer is it's clearly not.
The veil is revealed, and it's not. So
that has clearly been proven that the Blackhawks have not learned a damn thing. They haven't learned a single thing, and they think what they were doing is fine. And it's like, okay, it's like cool. You guys are terrible. Okay, thank you for proving that you don't give a shit. That was frankly, that's better. It's better this way, in the sense of I'm glad we're not trying to let's
not pretend, let's not sugarcoat this, and
and we're just getting to the fact of you don't think you
just
did
don't
anything
care
wrong, and you don't care. And you should be absolutely forced to sell the hockey team. Of course they won't.
They won't,
because
they are
Gary Bettman is just as spineless. Is just as spineless a coward as Rocky Wirtz is. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's been very proven that Gary Bettman has no backbone and does not care what anybody thinks.
To quote Steve Dangle, he is a husk. He is a husk.
He is
for the owners.
Just get it. I cannot wait very specifically for Gary Bettman to be gone from the NHL. God, you won't get rid of me anytime soon. It's please,
even when he retires in whatever amount of years, I expect another stooge to step in, unless all of a sudden I just expect someone it to be comes Bill Daly. In. It'll just be Bill. He's just business as usual. Time to, I don't know, you crunch the numbers. Arizona, you're doing great. Keep on trucking on.
Yeah, moving on. And that's
we got another settlement for the concussions, so forth. Yeah, that's fine.
Hey,
we're in litigation. Rick, we're in litigation. We can't speak about this right now.
Yeah, nothing will change until the owners want to, is the problem. And that's true of every sport, because at the end of the day, the commissioner is not real. The owners are their bosses at the end of the day. As the commissioner is not the boss of the owners. It's the other way around. And that's true of any sport. The problem is the thing is, in other leagues, specifically, I would say, I always point to the NBA as a very model example of this is what happens when you have a forward thinking group running your franchises, and your commissioner is also in that mindset. Not everything they do is a winner, but it's also but they also do a lot of things way more right than any other league. And there's a reason why I would say at this point they might be the most popular out of the big four. Like NFL does bigger numbers,
The
but
NBA, I would say, is
I would
biggest
say the
internationally,
NBA is
their reach,
way the
excluding
NBA has
China. But yeah,
the
that's
NBA
another
has
topic.
way more
Mhm.
global reach and is way more of an entertaining product than any of
Yes,
the other big
agreed
four is able
for
to
sure.
put on. Not because necessarily because the sport is more interesting. Well, it is a very interesting
It
sport,
is
but
an
like I
accessible
even
sport
personally
internationally, though,
that's
more than American
yeah.
football or baseball or hockey. So
Yeah, and like that's the thing that's always like drives you bananas is that like hockey as like if we're just cutting to the actual like just the pure sport itself, hockey is so interesting and fun. And it's like, God, if it was just in the hands of somebody who gave a crap and
yeah,
actually wanted to like make it more popular globally, sure, there are a lot of barriers in that mindset, but people would love it if they just were like given a reason to love it, and
mhm,
this league has no intention of doing that. So it's cuz and that's the most frustrating part is it's like, oh, the most exciting sport is run by the most boring people and it makes it like awful. Yeah, Gary Bettman needs to go. And that's no secret. And like there's like the whole thing where he's already like, oh, Canadian teams want to come play in the States. It's like okay, it's like we get it, Gary. If you had it your way, there would be no Canadian teams and they'd all play in
yeah.
America.
They would be
Like
playing in
that's not a
they would,
secret at
they'd have
this
a team in
point.
Oklahoma City, they'd have a team in Kansas City. I think they would also have a team somewhere in
Houston.
Boise and,
Oh god, there's
like
nothing in Boise. Nah, they
no,
don't
no,
have a
I'm
Boise
no, I'm
team.
just joking. I'm being sarcastic. Like they would rather put a team in Boise than put
Portland.
a team in Quebec City is my
Oh
point.
yeah.
There's like no sponsorships
Probably.
whatsoever. Stuff and
Which is
oh yeah.
much alone, which is like it's a like I don't buy that for a second. Like, come on, like there's like no, there's like yeah yeah sure the Winnipeg Jets maybe don't make the craziest amount of money, but like there's no there okay. There
The
is
only
no way. There is zero chance that the Winnipeg Jets are less profitable in any way, shape, or form than the Arizona
Oh
Coyotes.
no, yeah,
And you
for sure.
go into like the fact that they have been just jamming the square peg into the round hole with Arizona forever. And then like the whole thing, like Gary Bettman this week was like talking about the ASU thing. Like there
Mhm,
was the one thing where it's like, oh, the Suns don't want to share the footprint center in Phoenix with us while we get
mhm.
arena. And all I could think about, so there are a couple things I could think about there. So one
Yeah.
thing that actually should be noted about that, the reason why like
Mhm,
or the actual like not I should say the main issue with why the Suns thing is because their current owner who is their current owner just like has hates the
he
hockey
sucks
team
though.
essentially,
Yeah,
and he sucks himself too.
he
He's
sucks,
actually
yeah.
like they're like it's one of those things where maybe where literally if the Suns were maybe owned by somebody else, they might be
It
willing
seems li
to share the
like
building.
he has some unknown personal vendetta against, like, I don't know, it's not the specific owners of the Coyotes. I think it's just hockey in general,
He just
and I
doesn't
don't
like
know
hockey in
why, but
general,
yeah.
and but also, like, completely putting that aside, he's not a good person.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
there
no,
was a
there
whole
was,
expose on, like, I
there
believe,
was an
like, sexual assault
from, The
allegations
Athletic, yeah.
about him. Yeah, about
Mhm.
him, about the owner of the Suns, and that
Robert
they're
Sarver.
probably gonna have to they're probably gonna have to force him to sell his team,
Yeah,
to sell the Suns, which
hopefully.
in that case, hey, maybe the footprint center opens up, which frankly, like, if it wasn't for the fact that that building you can't they have the same like Barclays Center issue where you can't see half the ice from one section, like
Yeah,
they should be probably playing there.
yeah.
That was their biggest mistake in the franchise's history was ever leaving that building.
Mhm.
Or at least for a suburb rather than say one like next door.
Yeah.
The problem and but the other thing is also like even let's say by all accounts that like like the Suns were willing to share the arena were like or didn't have like a personal issue with the Coyotes or hockey in any way. It's
Mhm.
like, why would they? You have the franchise has a notorious history of not paying their bills. Why do you think that they would? Why would they want to?
Yeah.
Why would they want to share that arena with you in any way? Like, of course, like, oh, what is like, is it be like, what would make you such a great tenant? Is it the defaulting
It's also just
numerous payments?
yeah, it would also bring down the brand reputation. Like the Suns, like I don't know if you follow the NBA, Lachlan. Suns are doing pretty good. They were in the finals last year and they lost to the Bucks. And I'm like, they've got some great players and like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and so forth. But like, it's one thing if you have like one team as a tenant in your arena that is like just made the finals last year, has a great core around them, and then you're all of a sudden are like, and our sister team now that's come in, the Arizona Coyotes, who are dead last, or actually no, the Canadians I think are dead last, right?
Yeah, that's
So
yeah,
second dead last in the NHL this year, at least. They are for the last like 7-8 years, they've been notoriously a basement dweller, and there's just such a terrible culture around like the ownership now, even like excluding the stuff beforehand from the previous owners, the not paying the bills, the toxic work environment alleged by Katie Strang and so forth. Like, it's just it would just be a detriment to their own business dealings, essentially.
I mean, I don't think it would affect the Suns that much because it's like they don't own the team. They're just giving them they're just literally renting
but
the
it will,
space
like,
out to them. Like,
sure,
I
but
don't think
like,
it would. I don't like they don't. It's not like there's any cross promotion they
sure,
have to do.
no. I mean,
Well, they're like they have to
yeah.
do some because they
Yeah,
want to
no,
sell,
there's not
make
like
money.
it's not like it would directly impact them, but I think there could always just be there could be an image thing there. And like, why would you
Maybe
want to share with why would you want to share with them? They don't have to share the arena.
they don't have to share
They
with you at
reserve the
all.
right. They're just like, well, you got like, sorry guys, you
No,
didn't
you have
plan ahead of
like
time. We want this arena to ourselves. You're out of luck. I'll
yeah,
see you in Houston.
they owe you
So
nothing. And
yeah,
like Gary's like, I think they'd want an NHL team out of here. It's like, no, it's like I don't think they care. There is no way that the Coyotes have ever stolen business from the Suns in
no,
any way. They
probably
could
not.
care less. Like even like there's no way that the Suns even really think about like the Suns like ownership or anything like really even thinks about the Coyotes on a daily basis. Like, oh no, that team in Glendale that it loses
Mm,
every year.
yeah.
Like, oh, what harsh business we're dealing with, what stiff competition. But like the other thing is like the whole like ASU thing where they're like seriously making that like a thing. First of all, immediate issue, like ignoring, like before I get into the other part that just drives me insane about it is like it's not going to be ready. That arena that they're planning on going into at ASU, that's 5,000 seats. It's not even going to be ready until November. So it's not even like they can start the year there. They'd have
Send
to
them
do
on
the
a
whole
15-game
Islanders.
road trip
Yeah,
like
they'd
they've
have
done
to
in
do the
previous.
Islanders thing, not even to get an arena for themselves. It's literally just to not to be able to use a freaking 5,000 seat building, which won't even be
Oh,
that because they'll
no,
have
no,
to build their own
it's to
locker rooms.
clarify, 3,200, 3,300. It's not, let's not even call it a 5,000 seat, because like you said, the minimum requirements for
Yeah,
an
it's
NHL
30.
team to play in it, they'd have to upgrade the locker rooms and so forth. They'd have to add an annex to it, apparently, to this building. So they're essentially just adding this
Needs a
giant side
gazebo.
building to
Yeah.
what's already been built so far, at least.
Yeah,
But it's just,
and for a building that they're not even gonna get to use, that they're only gonna use for in
3
theory,
years.
they're only gonna use for 3 or 4 years, provided that they actually get an arena, which they won't. We know they won't.
They won't.
Like,
If
yeah,
if Tempe, I swear, if Tempe approves that arena,
I will think
like,
less of Tempe if they do that.
well, my opinion on Tempe is not really going to change all that much. Maybe city council, sure. The
Well, I'll be
city's
like, "No,
probably
y'all are
great.
stupid. They're
Yeah,
not
but
paying a
like,
foot they're
there's
not paying
no
a
like,
cent of that."
the counselors in Tempe have to had looked at the history that Glendale has had with the Coyotes for the last they've been moved to Glendale in 04, so I'm going to say like 17 years. They have to look at the history in those meetings, because those meetings, like, I guarantee you the city counselors were just looking at this being like, why are we dealing with this? There's so actually other important things besides a sports franchise. I mean, probably in the first like 4 or 5 years of that tenancy in Glendale, they were probably like, hey, we have a professional team. This is great. And then all
And they're like,
the
"Oh,
bad
wait,
things.
no, we oh, wait,
Yeah.
no,
So
we
essentially
don't."
all the dark side of it comes out, and then it just turns in, bankruptcy, ownership, defaulting back to the NHL, and then the NHL asking Glendale to cover their fees for like 2 or 3 years or something, and Glendale voting yes. Like, I just don't understand why they thought it was a good idea.
Yeah,
Hindsight's 2020, but still.
at the end of
Like,
the day, I think like city councils, like if they're like they shouldn't be willing to give that money to
no,
sports teams regardless. Like
no.
at the end of the day, it's like fine, go leave.
I'm
I'm not
I'm
paying you
very
money. Like go
I'm
to
very
hell.
happy for Glendale that they've said enough's enough. Like it was such a bad relationship from the get-go. I'm surprised it took this long, but they've said it, and I like, it would be really disastrous if, like, Alex
I'm only
Marulo and
happy
the
if they get
Coyotes
rid of
ran
if they get
back
rid of
to
the
Gila and
Coyotes.
just said, ASU failed, Tempe failed. Please let us stay for one more year. And Glendale's
For
just
one
being
more
like,
year and
for one
20
more
years
for one
later,
more year,
it's
please. We just
still
need another.
happening.
I just need one more year. That's all I need. Just one more year. Like, it's gonna be funny in May or June when there's a giant
There's
press
no way
conference,
that they're
and
no.
they'll like in 3 days, all of a sudden they'll be like they've been sold to the one group or whatever, and it'll like. I don't want to make a prediction that bold, but the Winnipeg Jets thing happened really quickly in 2011, right before the Cup final. It
Yeah,
was
but that
very
it was
fast. It was
like,
like
the sale happened
the
fast,
sale
but people
happened.
knew it was coming a mile away.
Were they?
Like that was yeah.
I don't
Oh
remember
yeah. Like
that.
there'd been rumors like people were already pretty darn sure by April that they were not that was going to be like their last game in Atlanta, the Thrashers' last game in Atlanta. Like I remember at the time they're definitely being like, yeah, they're gone. Like they're so going to
Well,
Winnipeg.
okay. So, well, okay.
No one in
So,
locals buying them.
well,
The only group
sure.
left is the Winnipeg one. They're gone. Like they're
Sure.
totally
So
gone.
we'll see. We'll have a better idea when we get to the end of the season before the playoffs. Like
I don't
maybe like the Coyotes, like these plans could just go up in flames, and then all of a sudden
they
they have
will.
no options. They're just gonna have no options. And what's the NHL just gonna be like? Yeah, you can go into next season with no plan, no arena.
Yeah, sure.
We'll build you a temporary arena on a parking lot. You can play. We'll build you a rink in a
We'll
parking lot.
freeze the Grand Canyon over,
I
and
don't
we will
know.
have you play literally in the
We're gonna,
crevice.
what they'll do is they'll build like a rink somewhere in the middle of Arizona in the wilderness,
That would
and they'll
actually
be
be a
like,
cool outdoor
"This
game.
is the NHL Stadium Series." Or sorry, it was like
Yeah.
what did they do again with the Vegas and Colorado? Where was that? That was
How
on
is that
Lake.
like a naval base or something like a
No,
college
that
or
wasn't
something?
like a naval base. It was right beside like a giant lake. Like it wasn't Lake Placid, was it?
Oh, you're talking about the outdoor series. Oh, the outdoor
Yeah,
series, Lake Louise, or not Lake Louise. That was in Lake Tahoe. That was in
yeah.
Tahoe.
So they do something where it's very scenic, and they're like, "This is your new home. You're playing outdoor games for the rest of the
Wow,
year."
wow! This is the most tickets we've sold in years.
And
Zero
they'll be
people
like,
there.
the
Like,
NHL's like, we are so excited. This is a great opportunity, and everyone's just like, yeah, this is not going well.
no, okay, here's the thing. The Coyotes are gone. Like, I'm
They're
sorry. Like,
gone.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. If the NHL lets them play at ASU, like, I'm sorry. It shouldn't get to that point anyway, because that would look so Bush League. Like, this is the thing. Like, that's the hindsight. If the NHL cares about their image at all, at least from
Do they though?
they made it very clear they don't care about it
They don't.
from a social standpoint of like when it comes to like actual like issues in society, but I will say this, they generally care about their image from a business standpoint. They care about their image when it affects them making money. So I have to imagine that that I have to think that they're not dumb enough to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna totally make money, and it's totally not going to make us look like a complete joke of a league if we have one of our teams playing in an arena that is smaller than most junior teams in like the middle of Manitoba will
Well,
have larger venues. Like
I
there's
mean,
no way like I'm just thinking about like the general sense of like is ESPN gonna like it when they have to broadcast games from a 3,000 seat arena? Be like, yeah, this game, this league totally matters, and
the
we
NHL
totally
will
didn't
just
waste our investment here.
this is where the NHL will step in. So they'll be like, we'll support them in a 5,000 or whatever seat arena, but they'll be like, the games, they're not going to end up on any ESPN games, national or ESPN plus. They'll just
They don't
blacklist them all.
already.
I
They
know they
don't
don't already.
already.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they don't
But yeah,
already because nobody gives a shit about the Coyotes. Get them out of here. I'm so done with them. Like
so
this
yeah,
is
no,
this
I
is all it
agree.
all
I
comes back
agree.
to.
I really
And
hope
then
they
like
go somewhere that's deserving of them and they get a fresh start.
and there's
Rebrand.
already executives talking about how they don't how like the executives like there was an athletic piece coming out that was literally like we don't want to share revenue with a team that's not clearly not that in
That
a
yeah.
5,000 that a
That article
3,000
says a
seat
lot
building
about
is
what
not going to
everyone's
pull their
thinking.
weight. Like they
Mhm.
shouldn't be allowed to have any sort of revenue sharing in that time. And I can't believe I ever found a moment to be like, yeah, I side with these billionaires. Yeah. But they're
Yeah.
right. They shouldn't. The
They
Coyotes
shouldn't.
100% should not get a
Yeah.
cut of that pie because they clearly don't
How does
deserve
the
it.
board of governors meeting go in the summer when everyone's just sitting around and then like Alex Murillo comes in, it's like, hey guys, and they're all just like, they'll
They
just
look
look at
at
him and they're just like, and then they just go back to doing their thing. And
yeah,
Alex is like, I, you guys gonna acknowledge us? Like,
Yeah,
we've
no,
got
they're
a plan
all
over
sitting
there.
at a
And
different
then
lunch
actually, and
table.
then they all turn to me, it's like,
You can't
Alex,
sit with us.
we've decided that we're gonna vote
The
you
kids.
out. We
Oh,
voted
I'm
you out
sorry.
of the group.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The kids table is over there. The adults are talking. That's
No,
how
yeah,
I.
they
That's what
pushed
I
them
would
to
be
like
like
an
at this point. Yeah.
AHL board of governors meeting.
Here's some crayons. Like, go sit at, if you're gonna play in a kids
Here's a
arena,
kids menu.
you're gonna get a
Enjoy.
kids. You're gonna
Yeah.
get a kids a plastic Fisher Price table to sit at the board of governors meetings. Like, frankly, that's where they should go at this point.
Okay.
Last thing to talk about before we go. The Olympics are fun and happening
Woo!
right now. Canada's leading 1-0 right
I
now.
actually just saw the goal. I did a fist
I
pump like a minute ago. I was like,
I saw the goal as well. Like, Canada's winning. That's the other thing. Like, that was the other thing that made the All-Star game hilarious is, like, I mean, they knew that was going to happen, like, regardless, like that was going to be a thing anyway. But
Yeah.
like, I was like, sure, I could watch the skills competition, or I could watch like really good snowboarding instead.
And snowboarding kicks ass.
Yeah, I love the Winter Olympics. Like this, okay. I know like the whole socioeconomic issues with the Olympics and everything tied to it, and the fact that it's in China, especially right now in this particular year, it's bad. It's really bad. This is like the Winter Olympics specifically are the one thing, are like that one thing where I'm like, God, I know it's bad, but I enjoy it so much. Like it's that one issue that I can never bring myself to fully
Here's a question for you.
hate.
Did 2010, I don't want to say like poison or corrupt your view of that, like in a good way. Like it's just
I
so
loved the
biased.
Olympics before it.
Yeah, so I was curious. Like, did you watch Torino and Salt Lake?
Yes.
Because I remember very little.
Salt
I
Lake,
remember Torino a little, but
Salt Lake, I remember very little because I was 5. But I do remember the men's gold medal hockey game. I remember that. I remember snippets of that from when I was a kid.
Okay.
Even the Torino games, I remember getting up early and wanting to watch like the different events, but obviously the hockey being the big one for me at the time, because that was right at the beginning of when I really got into hockey. I would have been I believe I would have been like 7 or 8 at the time. This was the year before Luongo joined the Canucks.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew
06.
Luongo was good before when he got traded. I was like, oh, he was on Team Canada, so he's really good.
Awesome.
I remember watching him play in one of those games in Torino. I remember him like being up early and watching him play in one of those games.
Yeah.
I remember Kim Martin being a standout for Team Sweden in the women's tournament. Like I thought I loved the women's hockey even at that point. Like as a younger kid, like I remember like Kim Martin was one of the first goaltenders that I remember being like, oh, they like completely just stealing the show, and like they beat the Americans in the semifinals, and move on to the gold medal game. And she would like literally lights out, so good. Like that 06 women's team was incredible. But yeah, so like I've always loved the Olympics, and like even before Vancouver 2010, I was a big specifically winter. I honestly don't care much. Whenever people are like the summer games are better than the winter ones, I'm like, nope, you're wrong. You're wrong. And I'm not even talking about hockey. Like even if you take hockey out of the equation, I'm like, no, it's still better. The amount of banger events.
Let's talk about that.
The amount of banger events per capita in the winter games is so much higher than the ones
also
in the summer
are
games.
just way shorter. In like, okay, so let's talk summer briefly. You've got events like swimming, where the swimming heats go so like the swimming is like one of the exceptions in the Olympics, but also like the track and field, that is like for some reason marketed as the biggest event, and it's like over in really 2 minutes. Like it's okay. It's good.
I don't know. See, so I'll say this. I don't think quality of event is judged based on how long it is. I don't think that's not the way at least I judge it. I just judge it based on is it exciting when I watch it. Okay. And like, and for the 30 seconds that they're running, it's really exciting because you're like, oh my God, is someone actually going to pass Usain Bolt for a second here? Yeah. Like that kind of stuff is interesting. But like, then you get into events where it's like, oh God, do I really care about like sailing? No, I don't care about, do I want to watch equestrian? Do I want to spend my day watching equestrian? No, the horse is doing all the work. No, thank you. Like there's a lot more events in the summer games where I'm like, they're like, but
there's also just more events in general. There's just more events in general though.
There are more
for the
events in
summer.
general, but, like, the events themselves, there are a lot of events in there that are, like again, I'm not knocking the actual athletic ability,
Mhm.
it's incredible regardless of what they're doing, but, like, from an actual, like, spectator standpoint, there are so many of those events that I'm like, "This is not interesting." Like, I
Mhm.
don't wanna watch steeplechase. I'm sorry, I don't. Like,
Yeah.
that's not speed walking is kind of interesting, but, like, even then, it's interesting in the, "Oh, it's kinda weird how they're walking, but
Yeah.
also not." Like,
Pretty much. It's
you're
just
not watching
it's
it
a
for the
novelty
actual, like,
thing.
entertainment, you're just
Yeah.
watching it because you're like, "Oh, it's kinda weird." Whereas
Yeah.
the winter games, outside there is, like, outside of, like, I think even, like, what I guess, like, the one event that's kinda, like, semi not in like, semi, like, more not harder to keep up with over the entire event is, like, cross country skiing or
Yeah.
something, or, like, biathlon.
Mhm.
Even then, they're good. Like, they're
You've got
fun.
like any if we're going by banger events, so hockey, curling,
Curling is
we
so
got yeah,
good.
curling
I
is great.
love
We
curling.
got like curling, my parents were lucky enough to see Olympic curling in 2010, not Canada,
I also
mind you.
saw Olympic
But
curling.
yeah,
Uh,
like it was really cool. They saw like two different countries. I think they were European and yeah, no, they had a really fun time there. But yeah, curling is a great event at the Winter Olympics. And then we've
oh,
got other
so
stuff
good.
like, like there's still the skiing, like the moguls was huge in 2010 with
Mogul
Bilodeau winning the first
Yep.
gold for
Moguls
Canada
was
and
great
such.
last night,
And
great
moguls was
last night too.
good. And there was also snowboard where Perret and McMorris
Max
won
Perot,
golden.
yeah,
Yeah,
coming back from
Perot, excuse
cancer.
me.
Literally, had cancer,
Great
Hodgkin's
stories,
lymphoma,
amazing
which,
stories. Yeah.
same cancer that Mario Lemieux dealt with.
Mhm.
And came back from that, not like, forget even the fact that he won gold. The fact that he made it back to the Olympics after dealing with that is just incredible, and
Mhm.
just like example number 2551 of athletes are different from you and I.
Yeah.
Like elite athletes are truly built different. Like,
Mhm.
I would like, yeah, it's wild. And then, like, even like Mark McMorris, similar, like, not in the exact same scenario, but like severely damaged his body backcountry boarding.
Mhm.
Came back, won bronze in Pyeongchang, and then won bronze again this year.
Yeah.
After having won already in Sochi beforehand. Like,
Mhm.
incredible. Like, the events at the Winter Olympics, I struggle to find one ever that I'm like, "Oh, this is boring. I'm not interested."
Okay,
They're
give me 1
all
second.
good.
I'm not trying to say they're all good. I actually just wanna find one that I'm gonna, like
Like, luge is not always the most like, luge and,
luge
like,
is good, though.
skeleton are
I
not
think
always, like, but
luge can
even
be
then, it's like, "Oh,
exciting.
they're quick. Look how fast they're going."
No,
Like,
no, no,
that's
but, like,
cool.
the way it works is, like, when you have, like, the last
Bobsled
competitor
is
the la
fun.
no, yeah, the bobsled is really good because it's, like, the last team's coming in, they have to beat this one time, it's on the line, like, gold's on the line, that's exciting. The
Right.
trials and stuff, that is a little boring, but I wanna see actually, like, if there is, like, a sport that I can say is the not the worst, it's just the least
There's
exciting.
literally
Um,
like, so I'll say
mm,
from a spectator standpoint, like, okay, if we wanna go, like,
yeah, it's
I was gonna do this
biathlon.
with
I think
Cody.
it's biathlon already.
I think it's biathlon, and that's partially
Yeah.
just because it's a very long, again, like, why I don't think the quality is based on how long it is. Like, biathlon is usually a very long event.
Mhm.
But that's kind of like, it's just not my thing. Like,
Yeah.
again, not knocking the actual athletic ability that it takes to go from skiing for a long ass time and then
Mhm.
shoot 5 targets perfectly and then keep skiing. That's
Yeah.
ridiculously, like, that's insane.
Mhm.
But it's like, as far as like a spectator sport, it's like, it's not my jam. But overall, but even then, there's like a lot of events I would prefer to watch biathlon over a lot of summer games events. There are a lot of summer
Yeah.
games events that I would
Like,
happily go back to
there's almost
biathlon
3
for.
time the events of in summer than winter.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at it, I was like, "Wow, there is a lot."
But
And then,
even the
like, this
yeah, and then the
yeah.
ones, like, it's really in the summer games for me anyway. It always comes down to, I watch track and field, I watch swimming, gymnastics, and swimming. Did I say swimming already?
You did, yeah.
And then no, that's it. Like, that's it. Those are the ones. Those
So
are the three.
so,
Like,
yeah, swimming, beach volleyball,
oh, beach volleyball is pretty good
that's
too.
and
That's
also
right.
yeah, so, like, swimming, beach
And soccer,
volleyball,
obviously. Oh, soccer as well.
soccer is great, I'm just
But even
seeing,
then,
and
soccer is not like
then
the Olympic soccer is not even isn't but, like, even in that case, it's not the best soccer tournament. Like, the
yeah.
better
Oh,
there's
the
cooler
tennis,
for men
tennis as
or
well.
women.
Tennis.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
also with
another one.
and then also
Yeah.
with tennis, it's a case of, well, why would I watch Olympic tennis when I could watch Wimbledon or the US Open? Like there's like
Mhm.
there are better versions of those same events. Like I think they added golf recently. It's like another
Yeah.
a lot that's the other thing. Like even like the best events in like a lot of the Olympic events, like there's often a better version of it outside the Olympic games
Sure.
that you'd rather watch. Whereas like with hockey, for example, it's one of the rare cases where it's like, oh, this is the best international tournament. Like this is clearly when the NHL players show
When
up
the
for
NHL
the
players
men's
show up,
tournament,
at
this is
least,
clearly the best. This is
Totally.
the best hockey tournament in the world.
Yeah.
And for the women, same thing. Like the
Mhm.
women's Olympic tournament is the best one.
Yeah.
Like and that's why in a lot of cases the Winter Olympics are so much better. That's my take on it anyways.
Yeah.
I love watching curling. Figure skating is really good. Like I
Figure
enjoy
skating is
figure
good.
skating
Yeah.
is wild.
Mhm.
Like it's wild what they can do in that what they do there. And
Mhm.
how intense it is. You got the whole you got like the cross, like ski cross and snowboard cross. I love. Yeah, there's so many good events at the Winter Games. And again,
Mhm.
maybe I'm biased because Canada is clearly much better at winter events than they are at summer ones. Like how there's at
Yeah,
least
in
a
some
more
sports.
robust there's at least a
Yeah.
more robust investment into winter sports
Mhm.
because we're Canada. But
Our
like
swimmers though are kicking butt though in the summer, and they've
yes.
got a lot of potential. Like
Oh
some of
yeah,
them
there's
were in
some
Rio, and
oh,
some of them started in
Oh
last
yeah,
year in
like again,
Tokyo.
there are
There's
definitely
going to
good
be some great stuff going forward.
there are
Yeah.
definitely some great Canadian Olympians in the
Mhm.
summer games, but there's just a lot more of them in the winter ones. Like there's like almost like in the
Yeah.
winter games, nearly every sport Canada is like at least one like one potential medal favorite in there,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Whereas with the summer games, it's usually like a few events here in between. The rest of them, it's like, oh, well, we're not going to probably
Or
have a judo
they've got
champion
multiple
anytime
athletes
soon.
doing multiple events in one category, like with
Right.
Penny Alexiak.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's like comes back to the same. Well, it's this one event with that. It's the one section subsection of
Sport
events
with
that
multiple
they
events.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, like for me, like I'll say this, like when I went to the Olympics. So just to kind of go over like puck soup style, overrated, underrated. Underrated is curling every single time. Curling
Yes.
is really fun, and it's one of those sports that every time you show somebody curling for the first time, at first they're like, this is gonna be boring. And then by the end, they're like screaming sweep at the
So
TV.
hard.
Like they're the
Hard.
most
Go.
like
Hurry hard.
like you'll think they've watched it's like they've watched it their entire life, and this is their
Yes.
whole this is it. This last rock is all it comes down to.
It's down to the
so good.
hammer.
Yeah,
It's down to the hammer.
down to the
Yeah.
hammer. It's so good. Overrated, speed skating. And I'm not saying that from a like the event, it's like the TV event. I am saying this strictly from I went to see speed skating at the 2010 Olympics. And it was an event that Clara Hughes won a bronze. I believe it was her last medal before she retired, unless I'm mistaken. But like from an actual event from an actual like spectator standpoint, I was like, oh, like I remember like we were all going into it having remembered the Torino games where Canada just swept through in speed skating.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is actually not that like interesting. It's actually like we were saying, like it was still good, but it was like, oh, this wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be, especially because like obviously on TV it's much better because the camera's following them the whole time. So
Yeah.
whereas when you're in the building, obviously they pass you by every like 5 seconds once or twice, and that's it. But that's like but like speed skating itself is again really fun. Whereas I'm more of the mindset of like short track speed skating. Now that is where it's at. Short track
Mhm.
speed skating is bonkers chaos for like
Mhm.
5 minutes, and it's incredible. Like,
Mhm.
oh my god, just seeing like whenever they fall, it's like, and they just take out half
It's
the
like
skaters behind
I
them.
don't remember. There's like
oh,
this
this is
one
so
infamous.
fun.
I don't even remember if it was short track speed skating. There one famous incident where the guy that was gonna come fifth, like
Yeah,
comes
this was
across
short track.
first
This was
because like
Australia. This
everyone
Australian
falls
guy.
right at the end.
There was an Australian
Yeah,
guy
it's
who
Australian
won
guy.
Olympic gold in Salt Lake City
I gotta
because
find that.
because all the competitors fell in front
Australian.
of him in the quarterfinals. Then all the competitors except for one fell in front of him in the semifinals, and then in the gold medal
This is
race,
it. I found it.
everyone in front of him
Stephen
fell.
Bradbury, Olympic legend. Like, I'm going here. I just want to see.
He
It's just
showed
like,
up and he
oh.
won.
Yeah,
That's
in the
how it
final,
goes.
he was again well off the pace when all 4 of his competitors crashed out at the final corner while jostling for the gold. This allowed Bradbury, who was 15 meters behind with only 50 meters to go, to avoid the pileup and take the victory. He was the first person from the Southern Hemisphere country to win a Winter Olympic event.
It was
That
so
just shows
funny.
you how like dominant a lot of countries in the Northern
And
Hemisphere is, just because they're so used to the Winter
and
Olympics.
I think the funniest part about those events, like that one, and then also the American curlers from last year, is everyone's always like, oh, you see, anyone can be an athlete. It's like,
Yeah.
well, it's a little more complicated than that, but I see where I get what you're saying, where it's just let everyone else fail in front of you and you might win something. That's been the Canucks mantra for years.
Of course.
The Canucks mantra has been the Stephen Bradbury poach. Hope everyone falls at the finish line in front of you.
Hopefully.
Which again is not really fair to Stephen Bradbury, because I think even in his own right, like he had won a lot.
Oh yeah, no, he was great. He like going into the he is a great speed skier beforehand, but going into the final, he was not expected to win. That just made the whole thing like they were like, I think they were.
And
probably,
he literally took the game, approach of, I'm gonna stick just back of everybody so that if they fall, they won't take me out, but but I have enough space to maybe pass somebody if something gets weird. When everybody gets desperate and tries to pass each other at the same time. And sure enough, all four of them just gone in the last corner.
Yeah. I'm actually watching it right now because it's such an incredible.
And you see, I think the funniest part is like of that clip is you see like the Canadian and the American skater, like literally like on their like hands and knees, literally scrambling just to like put their arm over the red line to get a medal, because it's so good.
Okay, I found it. Here it is.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh yeah, so when he's 15 meters behind, like he's behind, like I don't even know how long of a lap is, but there's there's considerable space. Yeah, but like it's big, and then they crash right at the corner. And
literally
everyone
right
just
at
falls,
the final
and they hit
corner.
The wall, and then he just skates across, and he's just like puts his hands
I love
up,
his I love his very hockey player reaction where he's like, yeah, yay, like he's like, I did it. Like it's like where he's like awesome. He's like, God, I'm sure they're gonna take this away from me somehow. And it's even though he doesn't touch, obviously he doesn't touch them.
Yeah.
And it's like, but he won anyway. And which begs the question, Jacob, the 2030 Olympics might come back to Vancouver.
Yes.
And
this is a development for those who aren't aware.
And I am very okay. I know what the Olympics does. I know what it leads to. I know why it is very hard for anybody to afford rent around here anymore. Or at least why rent. Sorry, I should say why rental prices in Vancouver have spiked, and this has been talked about before. That the Olympics and prior to that Expo 86 were all great events. The problem with them, the socioeconomic issue with them, at least in Vancouver's case, was that it completely made people like buy up property like crazy, want to move there, to the point where all of the prices skyrocketed on rent and affording a home.
I did do a podcast on Expo 86 for a BCIT class, and that is a truth to it. It also has to relate to when those developments happen, when these world events come together. Essentially, everyone that lived in Vancouver that owned property, who was renting at the time, was like, I can find someone who will pay twice as what you will, so you're out. So there was a lot of displacement for people that lived in certain neighborhoods in Vancouver, especially in certain buildings. So a lot of people ended up getting kicked to the curb. And there were a lot of people left behind in both Expo and Vancouver. I know a little more about Expo because I've done research on that. Vancouver itself had a lot of issues as well in 2010 that a lot of people maybe outside of the city don't realize. I mean, every Olympics host city has its own problems and
Oh,
issues
like,
that ends
no,
up
there's
coming
yeah,
to a forefront, but still,
there's
you know.
never been an Olympics, like, and
Vancouver was often described though as the perfect. Like I
it's not
remember
necessarily
outside of
like
Vancouver though, it
the
was described like that.
Olympics' fault per se. It just
Oh, no,
shines
no,
the
no.
light
It's
on
just,
the issues that were there already, and people are
yeah,
like, "Hey, wait, why are you paying for a party instead of this fixing this other thing instead?"
we have
And yeah.
considerable issues here.
Yeah,
So
but well,
yeah.
yeah. But, like, I
So
mean, unfortunately, compared to a lot of, Olympic cities, it's kind of a drop in the bucket it's not that
yeah.
it's a very small compared to some of the things that, say, like, Rio de Janeiro has problems with, and
Yeah,
Sochi
we
and Beijing.
exactly.
Like,
And the one credit, or at least the one morsel of credit that Vancouver has, at least, is that infrastructure for an Olympics is
is
mostly
already
here.
here.
It's
Yep,
mostly here. There are, I think, some ideas that they might be able to set up some more infrastructure that could be permanent. Like, there is the Vancouver Olympic Center, which eventually became
that's the
Hillside
yeah. Yeah,
Center in Vancouver,
that's
which is a very well built community center.
That's
But
literally
there,
the only event, like, event space, like, or at least competition space that they'd have to replace. The rest of them are
yeah.
what, like, maybe some of them just don't
Oval's
wanna be
fine.
involved. They're all there. Everything
BC
else is
Place
there.
is even better than what it was
Macy
back in
Place is
2010.
way
It's
better than it
funny
was the last
it's
time.
funny because, like, one of those iconic images is of BC
The
Place's
bubble.
old roof, the,
Yeah.
inflatable marshmallow roof, and
It was,
then
like, the last thing they
1
hosted
year
before
later, they were
it was
like, "We're gonna
gone.
tear it down, and we're gonna build the nice retractable, like,
Yeah.
spiked
It
roof."
it
And
was
it's a
really
great
funny how that
space
worked
still.
out, where they were like, "Oh, we're gonna fix it immediately after the Olympics." It's like, "Wait, what? Why didn't you
Yeah,
do this? Why
well,
didn't you think of this earlier?"
I
Like,
think didn't a whole tour right before, not like, I think a whole tour into the roof a year before the Olympics. So that was the inspiration. They're just kind of like, we need to get this roof replaced. They got it
it was
used for the
but it was
Olympics.
it was earlier than that. Like, it was one of
What,
those things where
really?
it was like it was early enough that, like, had they gotten everything put together in time, like, they could have done it. But because,
Probably,
like,
but
literally, I think I think it was literally a case of, like, after the Olympics were gone, like, it was almost like,
we're
not even,
doing
like, a
this.
month later,
They were just like,
they had already taken the roof out. Like, it was
maybe they
already
were like, well, I bet they probably
mid-construction.
just had the plan. They're like, the Olympics was the last hurrah. They hosted the
Yeah.
opening and closing. First Olympics to
It
be
opened the very
hosted.
next year in 2011. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, first Olympics opening and closing ceremony to be put in an indoor arena. That's a first, technically Vancouver
A
was.
first, like, not,
Um,
it's one of those, like, it was one of those, like, is this really an exciting thing? Like, an exciting moment? Like, it's under this really old looking
marshmallow
bubble dome.
terrible
Like,
roof. They covered it
whoops.
up with a bunch of different things because that
They
roof
actually
is
did
ugly. They
yeah,
did a good
they
job
did a very
in
good
the
job.
interior of the arena. But yeah, so
They
there
looked
the
like a different
infrastructure.
place in there. It's wild.
Yeah, no. So the infrastructure is there. The question is whether support would come, and also money. Like, so the news is that came out this week was that they've pushed this bid, which
The
is a bid
people
between
discussion.
a bunch of indigenous groups and the mayors of municipalities around here, that the Canadian Olympic Committee and the Paralympic Committee would fund research to actually look into this and see if it's viable.
And
Um,
the 2 cities have also Vancouver and Whistler also signed on to that. So
yeah,
if it proves to be a good thing, we're in. That's
yeah.
what that means.
So it'll be interesting because there's a lot of people that, when this is a controversial Olympics. So I don't know if it's gonna the national, like, spirit's gonna really come out for a lot of people, especially with Beijing and a lot of
See,
things.
you're okay,
Well,
this
no,
one,
yeah,
yeah.
this particular Olympics, it might be different in 2026. Where is it again? I think it's
In
in
Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy.
Italy.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. I
yes.
was thinking it was Italy. So maybe when it goes there, like, the bid will be already in by then. Like, it's not like they're
Oh, yeah,
gonna be able. So they're
they'll
gonna have to.
already
They'll
know
have
by that
to. They're
point.
gonna have to figure out by then if this is a good idea. You know, I think it'd be really cool, but at the same time, I'm not gonna be like, we must get the Olympics. I think 2010 was a really cool, once in a lifetime event, but there was um, a lot of things that came out of that did.
Vancouver itself has not
Yeah.
changed a lot in the time since the 2010 Olympics, like, at least from, like, the city itself, like, the city
No, no,
itself
no,
hasn't
not
changed a
like,
whole lot. It's very much
yeah.
the same as it used to be, like,
It's
save
more
for a
about
lot more
what it's
skyscrapers.
Yeah, my take is more along the lines of, we have a lot of other things going on,
The
and
world has changed a
the
lot.
world has changed. Exactly. We're dealing with numerous things, climate change, and you know, um political things as well, even. And I don't know if like the only thing I can say is that as an argument for the Olympics is that comparative to other cities that might bid for it, we have the infrastructure and we probably can make a pretty decent, like a carbon neutral games. Like this wouldn't be a Sochi where they just make they turn a nothing city and they built a bunch of crazy stadiums and such, and then they just let them all there.
Yep.
So,
which is what's going to happen to these Beijing stadiums after they're done too. Like,
there was the one
shot.
Did you see the? It looks like there's the nuclear reactors from The Simpsons in the background.
That is a nuclear, and it isn't. That is a nuclear plant.
Yeah, it's a plant. Okay.
And everyone is like, God, that if that does not tell
that
you
sums up
everything wrong with the world in general. Where this place with no snow, there's no snow.
Oh my goodness! I'm actually literally like my tweet deck is open right now, and someone literally just retweeted that image of it's like freestyle skiing at Big Air Shugang, and there's the ski jump slope,
Big Air, more like
and then there's like 3, and they have Beijing 2022 emblems on them, which makes it even more
it's
like dystopian.
It's so dystopian. It's so
like Mirror. It's a picture you would get in like a show or a book. It's just terrible.
Yeah, which is why and actually of that mindset, I've said a few times before that I think the best thing the best decision the Olympics could make for themselves and their own legacy is to say, okay, instead of going to instead of going to a brand new countries every single Olympics, or like changing, like having a huge bidding process every single year, we are literally going to pick 5 cities in the world who host it who literally rotate hosting every 20 years. They host a new games. That way we don't have to outside of like we might add new events that need a couple extra spaces, but other than that, we just upkeep the stadiums they already have, that's how it goes. And then
that would be great, but it's all money though.
It's all money, but they're also not. But like the thing is, the Olympics aren't making money off of countries building the stadiums themselves, right? Where it's like they're not like they're making a lot of money off the events that are being ticketed and stuff at the buildings, but they're not making money off of they don't own the real estate. It's not like they're franchising out spots to build a stadium on or something, right? Like they're not getting any money out of those. They're just the only people. All it is. No,
what I'm saying though is that the whole bidding process before was very much corrupt. And it's still like they changed it because it used to be they used to fly executives out and then just give them gifts at their host city, being like, gifts, "Hey, give us the games."
Give them
and then
gifts,
they would vote for them.
Give them some other things.
They changed that. They changed that like in 2000. They changed that in 2002 before Vancouver even was awarded 2010.
Even in recent years, they've changed
it's still corrupt. It's still corrupt.
Even in recent, like they've changed it drastically even since, because they saw how much the costs were ballooning, and literally this games, the ones that are happening right now, literally no one wanted them, except for Beijing, and I think I think Beijing was the only one that wanted them.
I thought there was one other place. Maybe I was wrong.
I think there was one other place, but then they also bowed out. Where they were like,
probably there.
I thought it was
Salzburg, Austria. I think that's what it was.
It was either a Salzburg or I think it was actually, it might have been Innsbruck. It might have been Innsbruck, Austria.
Oh no, it was actually Kazakhstan.
Oh, that's right. They didn't.
Austria was a different one. So it was
Kazakhstan, actually, which wasn't a good option either. Yeah, it's just like other countries that they want, like the favorite. I think was supposed to be Austria, bowed out because they're like, "Yep, this is too expensive. We don't want this." You know what? And the Olympics realized, oh, we actually need to not do this anymore, where we get people to give us to build $1 billion in new infrastructure to have it just sit there and not do anything for years, which is why, again, Vancouver is a good spot for it, because again, you'd only have to build a few things. And also, you know what gives me a lot of hope for it is that the bid is being led by 4 First Nations groups. The Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, Musqueam, and I am blanking on the Lillooet. I think it's
Lillooet. Yes, that is
Lillooet nations are leading the bid. It's not the cities, the municipalities themselves leading the charge, or any just business people. It's First Nations groups. And if anyone is more likely to actually think about the long-term ramifications and think about the long-term environmental, economic impacts of what hosting a games could do, it's the First Nations groups, because they're much more inclined. They're much more they have shown multiple times over that they care a lot more about those situations and issues than regular cities do, than city governments do. So if they feel that they can do something, like they feel they can make an Olympics happen, and they're and leading the charge on that, then I 100% trust them to do it correctly.
Yeah.
And they're the only people that I would 100% trust to do it properly. And I think that's why a lot of people who initially were like, I'm not sold on this, are actually kind of coming around on it a little bit. Like, I think even recently, a lot more people are getting behind the idea of, oh, the Olympics actually could work again here. And again, I think it would be great for Vancouver. And also biased because I'm hoping by 2030 I'm a full-time sports reporter, and that would mean work for me in my home at an Olympics in my home country, and I get paid to go. So that sounds like a good win in my book.
So
at the end of the day,
yeah, they would be,
and also they're the favorites. They're the clear favorites to win. Like,
Are
if they get it.
Vancouver?
100%. 100%. So the other bids,
I was actually going to say,
I know
we're
running long on this topic.
We'll
go
finish
ahead.
up
Go
quickly.
ahead. List the other bids.
Yeah, so
and I'll tell you why they're not going to win.
2030. They have some stakeholders. These are places that are pending. They're considering it, like Vancouver. So Vancouver is one of them. Second is Sapporo, Japan, which hosted in 1972. And it was also part of the 2020 Olympics that did summer. So it has some Olympic experience. The other one is Barcelona, Andorra, Pyrenees in Spain, Andorra, and France. So it'll be a 3-country shared Olympics. That's because I think they're all near each other.
Yes.
Barcelona previously hosted the summer in 1992. And Albertville had done the 92 Winter Olympics, because 92 was the year they did both of them. And then the pending bid is actually Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's so. But even so, okay. So, and here I'm going to tell you why Vancouver is going to get picked over all of them.
I know why Salt Lake City. I know why Salt Lake City won't get it.
Salt Lake City won't get it because the United States are already hosting the LA games in 2020.
They're not. The IOC won't be interested. The IOC won't be interested in hosting 2 American Olympic games. They'll be interested in 2 North American. They'll be fine with that. But 2 American Olympic games in a row, they will not do that.
They will not go for that. Sapporo, Tokyo literally just hosted, and literally the last 3 Winter Olympics are going to have been hosted in Asia at this point. Sochi, Pyeongchang, and Beijing. They're not going to do that again. They're not going to go. I do not think they're going to go back to Asia so quickly, especially considering that their biggest. So the thing is, their biggest broadcasting, like the biggest amount of money the Olympics make is off of NBC and the US coverage.
NBC botches their coverage though. Like, okay,
NBC's coverage is terrible. We don't have time to get into this today.
I'm going to ask you after the podcast, because you've lived in the States. Actually,
it's terrible. The long and short of it, it's all they only talk about the American competitors, and they don't care about anyone else.
No joke. They will air. They will when an American's not performing, say like figure skating, they will put the Olympic game in the corner, and then they'll just run ads in almost full screen until the American comes up.
Do that.
Watching that because I was at my grandparents' house watching this a couple days ago, and I was turned to NBC's coverage, and they were showing like a figure skater in the corner that I think was like from Japan, and they were playing like Carl's Jr.'s commercials and Toyota commercials, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
NBC is 100% the and I honestly, here's the thing. I don't think that's necessarily indicative of NBC itself. I think that's indicative of Americans and not giving a crap about literally anybody else except for themselves, because that's the States, baby. But that's the thing, right? Like, that they are the largest rights holder. They have they pay the Olympics the most money, and it would be much more in the IOC's interest to keep sending games on to time zones that make sense for that market. Which is why Vancouver makes sense for them. Also, I think the 3-country bid for them, I think that one in theory could be interesting to them, but again, I think it would be very hard for them to go to pass on a group that already has hey, we already have literally everything except curling. And you just need to, and we have a very clear long-term, we have a clear proof that when the games are done, we use the facilities and they don't just end up going to waste and looking really bad for you after.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be like, and sold, because that's clearly the correct answer. Vancouver should be hosting every 20 years. Like, that's how it should be for the foreseeable future.
Well, we shall see. The host will be named in 2023 at the IOC session then. So it'll be a little bit of time before then, but
it'll be Vancouver.
That's your lock of 2023 is that Vancouver will be awarded.
Smooth Jimmy's lock of the week is that Vancouver will be hosting the games in 2030.
We shall see.
And it'll be awesome. It'll be great. Because they were fun. Those games were fun. Even people who don't like sports were like getting into it. It was fun.
Yeah.
And that's been this CreaseCast. This episode ran very long, much longer than I anticipated.
Much longer than what we had planned for, but that's okay.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to hit subscribe on your podcast platform and on YouTube. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications on the YouTube channel to get notified when new episodes or videos drop. Jacob, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at JKMNEW or on Instagram at jacob.km.new.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lock in the Crease. You can find my writing work over at cucksarmy.com. I wrote 2 articles today, one that came out earlier, one that's coming out tomorrow. Be sure to check that out. And Cody is not here today. Cody's not here this day. I don't think he'll be back this week.
He's busy covering Abbotsford.
He is busy covering Abbotsford, which is why if he was here, he would tell you to go check out ahlnucksharvest.com and follow him on Twitter at Cody Sievertson. And follow at ahlnucksharvest.com for all your Abbotsford Canucks coverage. He has the best in the biz, so go check him out. With that in mind, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Friday. Take care. Bye.
Bye.